Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful session. So, welcome to all of you. I'm Erica Roberts. I am a former federal employee, retired, an entrepreneur, a lifetime member of the National Black MBA Association, founder of the Greater Maryland chapter, immediate past president of the Washington, D.C. chapter, and a friend to the Chicago chapter. So I'm so happy to be here with you moderating this particular panel, which is the State of the Black Professional and Entrepreneur, Part 2. This is the second installment of a powerful, powerful series that we did last year in light of the pandemic, in light of the political and social unrest that we all experienced. And in the initial discussion, the theme was readiness and accountability for the organizations as they committed to making a shift as it related to creating equitable opportunities for people of color, for African Americans following the murder of George Floyd. On the entrepreneur side, the theme was centered around preparation and assessment, including how to accurately assess the landscape that we found ourselves in and how to navigate different stages of survival, success, and scaling, which entrepreneurs experience. And we finished out that session last year with resources for entrepreneurs that they need to be successful, and looking at the human resources, looking at financial resources, and creating a sound operational blueprint. It is now time to build on that conversation. And that's what we're going to do today with questions. 1, what is the state of the Black professional today? 2, how have organizations stepped up? Have they stepped up? And 3, looking at the great resignation that we've all heard about, and how will that affect Black professionals and their decisions to potentially pursue entrepreneurship or corppreneurship, as we're seeing in the chat. So I'm excited for that. As you look in the chat, right next to that, you can see a poll. There's a question there. As we introduce our esteemed panelists today, what is the state of the Black professional today? And if you want to go ahead and respond to that, as you hear who you will hear from. Introduction of these esteemed panelists: Janae Howard, a respected and trusted certified global HR leader who serves as the Director of Talent Acquisition at Grainger. Welcome, Janae. Stephen Powell, an accomplished thought leader who holds an MBA from Wayne State. He serves as the Director of Enterprise Risk Management at Relativity, and he's also the founder of a Chicago-based real estate investment firm. Welcome, Stephen. Will Evans, an esteemed and accomplished leader with over 40 years of experience at the highest levels in the public sector. Thank you for your service. And who now serves as the chairman and CEO of the Illinois Tollway. Welcome, Will. Tim Turner, he joins us with his MBA from Chicago Booth School and currently serves as a senior manager on the Pharmacy Insights team for our conference sponsor, Walgreens. Welcome, Tim. Melinda Jordan, who you've seen already today, affectionately known as MJ the Closer, because she makes it happen. Not only is she a board member for the Chicago chapter, but she's also an entrepreneur, a real estate investor, and a realtor for one of the hottest real estate firms in the country, Jameson Sotheby's International. And last but not least, we may be joined by Kevin Smith, who you've also seen today, and who also sits on the board and is an entrepreneur, business owner of the E-Perspective, a consulting firm bringing structure and creative leadership, helping companies build brand stories. Please virtually welcome our esteemed panel. And I want to start off with a question for all of you, and that is, how would you describe the state of the Black professional in comparison to the start of 2021 or the end of 2020? And if we could start with Stephen.
Sure, thanks for having me. There's always going to be challenges, I believe, but I think one of the things that are encouraging to me is that there definitely seems to be more awareness from a lot of different companies. I think there's, kind of been like an awakening of sorts. Black employees are a lot more vocal now. We have better kind of venues and things to express concerns or, engage with senior leaders. I'm certainly encouraged for the future. I think there's been a lot of good efforts made on the diversity and inclusion front. And it seems like folks are getting, at least a lot of my colleagues, my friends, it seems like they're getting good opportunities to grow, to advance, getting better opportunities for challenging work in various industries. So I'm very encouraged by it, but I certainly would acknowledge that there's a lot of work to still be done. But I think we're moving in the right direction.
We're making progress. You heard it from Stephen. Yes. Will, same question. The state of the Black professional today.
Had to find my unmute button there. I think I'll answer the question more from a societal standpoint, is that this last year has created a lot of change. I think that businesses and society is listening more, trying to be more inclusive. I think we have a long way to go. My concern is that it's lip service and being politically correct. But it's an opportunity. It's a great opportunity. There's shifts in the workforce, and I would describe today is just chaos. There's so many changes, the effects of the pandemic on the way we work and where we work. I think it's a huge opportunity out there, whether you are working for yourself, you're an entrepreneur, or you are working inside of a corporation. I think I'm very positive and optimistic, more than I have been in my entire life. You know, being I'm a baby boomer. You know, I probably got, you see this gray hair. It's real. It's not fake. But, you know, seeing the transition from, you know, I grew up with the Vietnam War and a lot of social change, and it was always hope that was out there. And I feel more optimistic today. And I think that there will be, even though we're not really seeing, I think we're in the cups of some fundamental change, the way we work and the way Black professionals are accepted in business, whether you're inside the business or you're working for yourself.
Okay, so change, but optimistic about the changes and the opportunities ahead. That's in line. Tim, same question.
Yeah, well, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, it's a privilege to even be on this esteemed panel, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this group. And in terms of the question, you know, I think there are a few concepts that come to mind when I think about the state of the Black professional. I think, you know, Erica, as you called out, you know, we are now, as opposed to the beginning of the year, you know, 6-9 months ago, we're in the midst of the Great Recession or the Great Resignation, and we're in the midst of this period where so much talent is moving and is becoming more mobile, and folks are expressing their agency in terms of, you know, voting with their feet, so to speak, in terms of where they choose to work. And so I think the Black professional is in a very esteemed position to really be a voice of influence in terms of what is it going to take for corporations, and for me, speaking from the corporate perspective, what is it going to take for corporations to retain their talent of color, knowing that there's so many folks who are choosing to go to organizations or go to teams that speak more to the work experience that they're looking for, and that also allow them to live their authentic selves in the workplace. And so I think as corporations continue to realize that they're going to be held accountable to the promises that all those corporations made last summer, last fall. You know, the results and outcomes from those promises, folks are going to start looking for that, both as consumers who are choosing what products they choose and to purchase, as well as employees in terms of where they choose to work. And so I think for the Black professional, we're in a position to really dictate the conversation in terms of what we need to see in
Oh, Tim froze.
as well as our ability to drive that conversation with Joey speaking.
Erica,
You're muted, Erica. You're muted, Erica.
And I just dropped some gems. I was hearing from Tim that Black professionals are empowered and empower to influence changes and kind of call the shots for what we want to do going forward. Thank you. Melinda, I'm going to come to you really quickly and kind of give that different perspective on the state of the Black professional today.
No, I appreciate that. And I appreciate all the comments and the optimism around the professional. You guys make me for a minute think about going back to my corporate career just for a second. But I echo a lot of that from an entrepreneur perspective. And I will tell you, as I sit here and I think about your question has so many layers. I would say for 2020 and early part of this year, for entrepreneurs, we felt like we were in this space of acknowledgement, awareness, and mixed emotions, angry, right? That we've been here saying we need resources, we need help, see us. The big corporations could never be the big corporations if they weren't small businesses first. And we feel like we got lost in that. And in 2020, it came to a head for us. What I would tell you now as an entrepreneur that, now we're feeling that there's this opportunity for actionable accountability. There's opportunity around being authentic, that your passions and your purpose can come to life in entrepreneurship and people will embrace that. And it goes a step further, and we're in this space of let's assess what has happened and how can we change the fabric of how small businesses are treated to accessibility. So now we're seeing people who have resources create grants and open up doors for venture capitalists to lend to women and people of color. Stars not afraid to commit that I'm putting money over here just for Blacks, just for Asians, just for Hispanics, just for women. And they feel like it's just an extension of them expressing the things they care about. So as an entrepreneur, we feel empowered because now we feel like not only are people seeing us, we have a voice and people are actually listening.
Excellent, and all very relevant. And what you just said from the small business perspective is also relevant to corporatepreneurs and corporate workers and government workers as well. Janae, I want to come to you in the same question: the state of the Black professional today.
Thank you. It's so hard to go last because so much has already been said, but something really struck me that Melinda said, and I'm coming from the corporate workforce as well, and I was actually really mad in the beginning, like, oh, now you want to hear what I have to say, or, oh, now you want my opinion. I remember being a part of some roundtables and, being the only Black woman on the roundtable. And Janae, so what do you think? And I'm thinking, and I finally had to actually get the courage to say, I don't know how I feel because you've never asked me and I've been here for 4 years. And I said, so when you are in a room and now you want to, I know you have the best intentions and you're coming at it from being an ally, but you're asking a lot of African Americans across this who actually in corporate America try to fit in and be quiet and take their place to now kind of put a mirror on you and tell you what it's like, give us a minute, let us breathe. We're still processing it. But then kind of getting through that now, then I realized, especially being in talent and being a recruiter at the time, an HR business partner, being able to realize my place. This is an opportunity. And so a word that came to me was, I'm sorry it took a long time, but up and coming is really how I feel the Black professional is, because corporations are saying now we're okay. We want to listen, right? And finding those allies that actually truly do want to hear. And I've gotten to a point where all the way like, are you sure you want to hear what I have to say? And yes, we do today. Okay, well then I'm going to come to you 100% raw in how to help you continue to move forward. And I know we're going to talk about metrics, but sometimes we try to hide behind racially and ethnically diverse. And then I like to ask the question, well, who's in your racially and ethnically diverse? And let's go through that breakdown and really look there. And where are you trying to make those movements, right? So I would say up and coming. And then I truly feel like, and now we have a voice that we need to use.
And that was the word I picked up on, is that we have a voice, we have a seat at the table. We are valued potentially for a perspective that was not valued 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Or thought about, or and we're helping with the implementation of all of these strategies.
Yes.
Folks are getting behind, whereas before it might have been, we're going to do something to help this community, but now we actually have to be able to show results. So before we move into it, I do want to talk about metrics, and I want to talk about accountability from the corporate side, but kind of moving on, kind of what all of you said around the state of the Black professional opportunity, voice, seat at the table, access in some cases. How do Black professionals, whether they're in corporate, in government, or entrepreneurs, how do they leverage this newfound access? As Janae said, you didn't ask me 2 years ago. You weren't interested 5 months ago. Now that you're interested, I'm not prepared, perhaps, to come and assert myself. How do they do that, Stephen?
I think the main thing is you have to be ready to say something. You have to be very strategic in your thought. You have to be very tactical in a sense, in a lot of ways. You have this voice now and you are empowered now. And so you have to use it effectively. So if folks do ask you questions for things, make sure you have a good response. Make sure it's been well researched. Make sure that you've done your homework and that you can speak to it. I think oftentimes what I've seen is, sometimes folks will get invited to the table and then they're not ready for it because there is like a shock all of a sudden of folks asking you higher level questions or valuing your input at a higher level. So just own it. Like, I've had a couple conversations as of late with some friends of mine, also Black professionals navigating the corporate thing. And a good point that I've just been kind of marinating on lately is sometimes we don't ask for enough. Like sometimes we're so eager or shocked or excited to be at the table that there's a lot of additional things that you don't ask for, additional access, additional benefits, additional things. So it's like really knowing your worth and coming to the table and expressing that. I think that's very important. And I also think this is an unprecedented time where we really have to work together. A lot of companies have fellows programs or things like that where they really are trying to reach out and bring more people of color, into these companies. And I think it's very important for those of us. I mean, we all have MBAs. We're supposed to be leaders in corporate America. It's very important for us to show solidarity and participation in those programs. There's a lot of times people just want to come to work and leave. It's like, if you're really going to seize the moment of all of these things going on, you have to get engaged. You have to help out. You have to reach down and help other folks kind of rise. And I think that's a very important aspect that I hope we don't lose sight of during this transformation.
Excellent. And the chat is flowing. So be ready. They used to say, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Know your worth. And then make certain that we're accountable and that we're building as community and building as village and supporting one another. Will, I want to come to you with that question. You referenced different generations. And so this opportunity, in my studies of history, something happens every 10, 15 years, and there's another opportunity where, oh, wow, it's come to the forefront that things are not equitable. Let's do something about it. We're in this window now where George Floyd's murder was over a year ago. The commitment started about a year ago. How do the folks that for the last 10, 20 years hadn't had an opportunity, hadn't been asked, hadn't had a voice, how do they take advantage of it today so that it doesn't just become a flavor of the month, but it's an actual sustainable change that we see?
So I would, my question is really from a C-suite perspective. It's a matter of not being afraid. And why do I use that word? I think that having been in boardrooms and in the C-suite for a good deal of my career, as a Black professional, being made overly cautious of how my non-Black counterparts think about, or even me talk about, social, economic, racial issues. And I take ownership of that, of having grown up with really trying to make the other side comfortable when I'm probably not. But, and I don't know where this came from, you know, and I'm a senior citizen. So I would just say it's somewhere in the history that it's gotten like this for me, that making them comfortable. And what comes to mind is where I'm in a position now, and when I got into this position, I come into a room with all my senior leadership. I look around, they're all white. There's one person of color in the room. I mean, and when I say don't be afraid, because like now, and I even when you start talking about this, I feel like I was a little apprehensive, but I'm actually proud because now when I look in that room, my CFO, Black woman, my general counsel is a Black woman, my chief operating officer is a Black woman, my head of diversity is a Black man, my head of procurement, I can go on. So before, it's like if I was white, it would be no big deal, right? You could walk into that room and it would be all Black people. They won't even feel, but I feel something about that. I don't know why. You know, I'm really like cautious about it, whatever. There is nothing wrong with that. And that's what I say, fear, that we have to just get over the fear of they're going to bring their team in and their team's going to look like them. And we've lived with that forever, that's okay. And I am, for one, takes that as being okay. And I feel apprehensive and a little anxiety where I come in and, you know, even now I feel just a little bit uncomfortable even talking about it, even though I shouldn't be, because I came in and, you know, my team is pretty much all people of color and women. I totally flipped the script, totally flipped the script. And I'm very proud of it. When you look now that it's the swung to the other side, everybody else can deal with them averages and percentages of here is you need to be 50% of what. No, I just equalized it. I'm the anomaly on the other side because the majority of the entire senior team are people of color and women. But I do feel a little bit, I don't know. I just feel a little anxiety about it, but I'm totally proud of it. I'm really proud. I'm proud. And not only that, you know, there is a saying many times that we have to be twice as good. I'm sure you've heard this, twice as good to get the same place or half as far. Mm-hmm. But distinguish, this isn't handing something to someone. When I look at their paper and resumes, they're distinguished staff. I feel I am. You know, I'm a wildcat. I got electrical engineer undergrad, and I got my MBA from Kellogg. Kellogg in the house for all you other Booth people. You know, Kellogg, #1 business school in the world. Just want to say that. Shout out. But I do feel some anxiety. And as a leader, I think as a takeaway, anybody said, we can't be afraid to go in and pull our team in and not have to look around, because it happens all the time that you come in and they're all white. There's nothing wrong with walking in and you've got a team and they're all people of color. They're my team. That's who I deal with. And there's trust and loyalty that comes along with that. And that is the most important thing in managing relationships and business especially.
Those are some gems on how to do it. So you're managing relationships, you are shedding the fear of optics, and you're getting past all of the conditioning that we had, that you have to conform to a certain standard. I've heard that kind of.
I still feel anxiety though. I still feel anxiety. I talk to myself about it, but then I get over it. When I deal with them, it's over it. You know, that's the joy of working with, you know, it's the best team I've ever worked with in my, you know, almost 50 years working. You know, it is the best team, you know, and I'm retired in a way, and I'm in this job that I, you know, got pulled out to do, but it really gives me joy with the people I'm working around. I mean, it's what makes me, you know, keep going, even though I keep telling, you know, I retired, so I didn't have to do this. And, but now I'm here doing it, and I enjoy it because of my team. Trust and loyalty is everything, and integrity. That's how I judge people.
And building a team that reflects your values and what you.
Yes. Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Yep. Tim, I want to come to you and I want to kind of ask you with that, getting past the conditioned conformity and taking off the mask and actually stepping up and being our authentic selves and presenting our authentic voice. How can folks that are listening do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in my mind, I think there are three things that come to mind. So one is in terms of being prepared for those conversations and being authentic. I think as you're preparing or considering how you may respond to certain questions that may come to you about what do you think the company should be focused on, or how do your lived experiences show up day to day in the workplace? Stories and narratives are really powerful tools, and it's something that we talk about as professionals in terms of when you're going into an interview. Have your stories ready, have your examples ready. Well, what about thinking and just reflecting and preparing the stories of your professional journey that really reflect and indicate what your experience has been, and take some time to prepare and reflect on what those stories are, so that when you get those questions, you're ready to articulate a story or an example of what really reflects your personal journey as a person of color. And I think that makes the process easier for us by having those stories prepared. And I think it also will resonate with our audiences. I think the other thing is having spaces like this, having the opportunity to kind of re-energize and encourage each other by connecting with other Black professionals, by building out those communities within your respective organizations. If you don't have or not part of your organization's business resource group, creating some community, whether that's, being a part of that group more formally, or just getting people together for happy hour every once in a while, just so you can chat and talk, even in a virtual format, just so you can share those stories with each other. And then the third thing, which I think was really important and helpful for me when I was, particularly in the course of the last year, and even for me personally, when reflecting upon George Floyd's murder and how did the subsequent conversations impact my own personal career choices and where I wanted to chart my path going forward, I felt that I needed to do more to enhance my own vocabulary around inclusivity, around equity, around social justice. And I felt like I needed to be better prepared to bring those concepts into my corporate setting and to be able to speak from a position, from an informed point of view. And so doing the research, doing the work. And obviously we all have lived experiences that we can draw upon as we talk about what we think we want to see, what we know we should see within our work environments. But I think when you can couple the narratives and stories that I'm talking about with the informed perspective that is based on research, that is contextualized by history, that is kind of taking the broader scope of what's going on in the society, and when you can package that into a conversation that you're having with your leadership, I think that's when you can start to feel much more comfortable, much more authentic, and really move the needle on these issues.
Love it, love it, love it. And that last point really speaks to the fact that even though we are Black MBA here, we are diverse, right? And so we have stories and we can learn from other people's stories. And if we have that seat at the table, it's important that we not only bring our own lived experience, but that we've learned from the collective. So thank you for making that point too. Somebody echoed more forums and connections are needed. If you're not a member of Black MBA yet, Chicago chapter should have been chapter of the year. I will say that. So go ahead and join today and make certain, especially as we're living in these pandemic times and people are moving remotely, connection is still important, so that this is an opportunity to do that even virtually. Janae, I want to come to you. So you've heard what we can do as individuals. How do you, from the HR perspective and the corporate perspective, hold your company accountable for doing the things that they say they're going to do beyond just the recruitment, but the leadership development, the pipeline, the opportunities and management, the opportunities for sponsors and allies, and having that go on so that it doesn't become a flavor of the month?
Yeah, thanks for that. So a few things is I love, I'm going to say the be ready, right? So my leader came to me and said, hey, would you be the DEI representative leader for TA? I'm like, yes, adding another job, but yes, absolutely. Right. And so really getting that partnership there. I like the word ally too. So you have to be a little strategic here on who's in your company, who moves the needle, who's got the voice of the CEO to the CHRO to the VPs, right? And so I've got some really great allies in Grainger that really stepped up, I would say, and I was very intentional about reaching out to them on what I was thinking, how we can move the needle. One of the things I implemented as a leader in Grainger in the TA space is candidate slates and diverse candidate slates. So they have to have a minimum of 3 candidates submitted for every job. One of those candidates has to be a woman. One of those candidates has to be racially and ethnically diverse. And then the third one can be, whatever. But the reason that we did that was because what I started to hear from a lot of leaders is, I need to check a box. I need a woman. I need somebody Black. I need somebody Hispanic. And I'm like, so do you want to check the box or do you want the best team member for this role? Well, I want the best team member. And I'm like, okay, well, let me present you with 3 of the best that we have found. And on this end, being very intentional about those 3, because, and I've had these conversations as well, like, I don't want you to choose me because I'm a woman. I don't want you to choose me because I'm African-American. I want you to choose me because I'm the best person for this job. And so that started having those conversations actually started to change the way leaders were talking. I partnered with some of my other HR leaders saying, we need some unconscious bias training. They need to understand what they're doing. And then when they're interviewing, we need to ensure that panel is also diverse, right? Like, how are we entering into this culture? And then how are we creating a culture that people of color want to actually work with? So we've partnered really closely with our African-American BRGs to get a lot of just feedback on like how they were feeling, how they experienced the culture. We've taken exit interviews on why people are leaving, where they're going, and kind of setting that. So I would say this is a big piece of having allies within the organization and then using your voice to push that needle.
Excellent. And Stephen, Will, Melinda, Timothy, do you all have any advice for those listening on how they can become the beneficiary of allies and sponsors and mentors, how they can actually benefit from that and kind of navigate being able to have good things said about them when they're not in the room, or having people like Janae insisting that the best folks get a look through diverse interviewing panels? How can we actually make that a fabric of our organizations?
Really just echoing everything I think that Janae mentioned earlier and that other folks have mentioned. It's just very important to stay active and be visible throughout your organizations. If you do have affinity groups, be active. If there are opportunities to help others who look like you, be active. Obviously, from a work quality perspective, Erica, you brought up a good point. How do you keep folks saying good things about you? Make sure your work product is top notch all the time. Quality always has to be at 1,000%. You unfortunately, there's still a double standard. You will often not get the benefit of the doubt if you do make a mistake. I know that's a lot of pressure, but that's just what we got to deal with. And so I'm very particular about anything that comes off of my desk, any email that goes out, anything. It's more work, but that's just what it is. I think start with your work product. Make sure your work product is the best that it can be. Make sure that you are the best at your craft. Make sure that you're certified. Make sure that you have the education that you need, that you have the credentials that align to whatever it is your career is, whatever industry that you work in. And then you have to do the extra work to make sure that you're networked in all the right organizations. So it's extra work, but it is what it is. And so, you really do just have to work a little harder than other folks, I think.
I'd like to maybe add a little bit different perspective. In addition to what Stephen's saying, is that it is important, probably the most important thing is to be in a company that believes, that you don't want to be somewhere where they just check the box. I'm doing these things, I have D&I, and I have all of these programs. They're just checking the box that I got this. I got diversity inclusion. I got affinity groups, and that all looks good. I can put that in my annual report. I'm just checking the box. But if they don't believe, take a look around the room in their C-suite. Because if they believe, then they have that diversity there. And if they don't believe, look on their board of directors, especially. Because if it's important to them and it's core to their culture, then it's not that you can't get traction, but you know, it's the difference between rolling the ball up the hill and running up the hill. You're gonna get up the hill, but it's so hard, much harder if you're rolling this ball up the hill. But it's the, you know, the belief from the top. Do they believe it? Do they live it? You know, and I think there, and as a leader, and if there's, you know, leader C-suite people on the phone, there's some things, a lot of this is responsibility of leadership in the corporation. They're in control. And what are they doing? What are the programs that they're doing to help? You know, for example, leadership program, you know, where they're teaching leadership their way, what they want, that they're creating a venue to exchange ideas, to expose people to each other, so that they'll understand the culture. Mentoring programs, you know, I think I'm answering the question somebody's going to ask me too. Is mentoring, and is it real? Are they matching people up with leaders? Because then, you know, taking someone at a, you know, maybe right at the management level, and you like, are they going to get in the C-suite or whatever, and matching them up with the president of the company or the CFO, and, you know, and they're real about it to help developing that person. Those are the things that I think if you're judging your company, that's all. Are you in a place where they're embracing the change, or are they just giving lip service and checking boxes? And the last item I'm going to mention is sponsorship, because we talk a lot about mentoring. You know, sponsorship is that person who can divide the water for you, who are watching over, you know, and I've been really blessed in my career. And I didn't know this as a much younger person. You know, I've been working for almost 50 years. I didn't understand this, but there's been places in my career when I look back with all of these pieces of paper I have and all the things I accomplished, I look back and one of the definitive things that helped my career is sponsorship. And I didn't know, but someone who was watching out for me. I did all the things. I got all of the good paper. I done all great things for myself. But one thing that really helped my career is that I had good sponsors throughout my career that helped me get there. And that's you know, you can find mentors, but exposing yourself to others, letting them understand your brand. I think Stephen said this, and this is totally important. What's your brand? That's what you're in control of. Is your brand. Who are you? Do you have integrity? And that's what you present. Do you present this guy, he was the first black officer at the company I grew up in. And I asked him one day, and I was just a young pup. You know, I probably only been working there 2 years. Like, what could I do? And he gave me some advice I've always repeated. He said, work hard. That's the best thing you can do for yourself. Because people will recognize that. You're talking and all these other things you got to nose up to people. Work hard. If that's your brand, somebody's going to want you to work for them. So control your brand, but you need sponsors. You need mentors too, but you need more mentors. I've had many in my career, but a sponsor too can be the differentiating factor for you really getting ahead, getting somewhere.
Mm-hmm. And both mentors and sponsors may not look like you and may not have a similar background.
Exactly.
Yes. To help. Yes. I want to add there, because you mentioned that some of this is up to leadership. And I want to add, if you're in an organization, a couple of things, because you also talked about culture. But if there aren't mentoring programs, if there aren't the affinity groups that you want to see, this is also an opportunity in this space. It might be that folks didn't know, didn't recognize, didn't ask before before last year. This might be a time to say, this organization needs X and I'm willing to lead it. That's a way to push forward and to make certain that the organization is for you. And to step back. We talked a little bit about the great resignation, right? But people are leaving and people are moving, and it's so much fluidity that this is a time to also say, is the organization that I'm with aligned with who I am and what's important to me and my values, and all of the things that Will just said. If you look around and you don't see that, that might be a chance for you to kind of self-reflect. I want to move to talking about metrics and accountability.
So Eric, I just want to say one thing. You said
Mhm.
that there's a really important thing happening in the workforce right now. And I know they look at numbers and talk about unemployment. It is a workers, market. It truly is, especially for professionals, for engineers, professional accountants. It's like we're seeing such a change in hiring staff, and I'm just talking about the professional levels, that it's a demand that's being difficult to be met. So things are in your favor. Anyone who's looking in the workforce, it's really in your favor to go out there and find the best place for you to work, the best place for you to work, the best job, the best place, the best environment for you.
For you. And that comes with also knowing who you are. So that's a step. If you don't know yet, it's okay to admit it to yourself and then figure out who you are and what's important to you. I want to move to Tim and MJ and talk about metrics. So we've heard all these good things from the corporate side. MJ, you might also, as an entrepreneur, be looking at it from the supplier diversity side, right? So when we talk about diversity, we talk about DE&I. It's not just about the employees, but it's also about what are you doing in the community? What are you doing to give opportunities to small businesses and those run by people of color? How do we measure success for the organizations? How do we hold them accountable for actually making change from a metrics point of view? And anybody can weigh in on this, but I really want to get Tim and MJ to respond.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that's really important is transparency and detail, and being able to push for that, both in terms of what shows up externally as well as what shows up internally. So I know for Walgreens, we've recently published our DEI report, and there's actually, in my opinion, a really good amount of detail about what's the racial and ethnic breakout in terms of employment. How has that changed year over year from 2019 to 2020? And how does that break out by levels? And we're looking at not just senior level, not just senior leadership, but managers, non-managers, even within our pharmacists, like within our field talent, we have those numbers broken out in this public-facing, external-facing DEI report. And so I think it actually reveals a lot of interesting and compelling information. I mean, we've seen our numbers in terms of senior leadership has become less white, but our senior leadership has not become more Black. And so I think it illustrates some of the points and some of the opportunities. And I actually think relative to Will's point, I think with that type of data, you're not only in a position from like an employee's market standpoint in terms of going out and finding opportunities that speak more to your experience in terms of finding companies that already have the culture in place, but you can actually do a lot in terms of crafting and building and cultivating the culture, even within your own company. And so I think there's a lot of opportunities to even push for development, promotions, growth, to become increasingly more influential, so that you can be part of the solution in terms of making those numbers better for your own respective company. And so you can also push out solutions that will resonate with the rest of the community as well. But I think that's just one element. I think that transparency and being able to break down the data within that level of detail and having that show up internally and externally is really valuable.
And so how many people I want to see in the chat actually have looked at the reports for their organizations, looked at those D&I annual reports that come out to see what is the breakdown and to use that to advocate on your behalf? And as I say that, I want to come to MJ. So the similar breakdown for these organizations as it relates to supplier diversity, as it relates to community engagement, what do you look for as an entrepreneur?
So a little bit of context. So I'm a real estate broker, and I am with the largest global real estate brokerage in the world, Sotheby's International, right? So oftentimes in the US, the brand doesn't come to life until people experience the brand outside the country, right? And I transitioned from Coldwell Banker to Sotheby's about 14 months ago. And I was intimidated. Like, they focus on luxury, and I did not see people that looked like myself. And so in my assessment in making the transition, I will be honest with you, that was one of the questions I asked during that process. I wanted to see what those numbers looked like around the world. And what I learned is that of the 25,000 Sotheby's agents around the world, 0.06% were Black. In Chicago, we've got 5 offices, close to 600 agents. There are 7 of us. And so many of my friends and colleagues are like, well, why are you going over there? You're doing well at Coldwell Banker. Why would you leave? And to Will's and Tim's perspective earlier and yours, where you see an opportunity, you may have to create it. So after being with Sotheby's up until spring of this year, this past March, I made a decision that I was going to reach out to all the Black Sotheby's agents I could identify on our website and say, hey, let's have a happy hour and let's just talk about what our needs are. And 2 Black agents around the world, there are like 200 of us, reached out and said, hey, MJ, if you're ever in Atlanta, let's hang out. Went to Atlanta, met with them, and we decided we were going to start a Black affinity group for Sotheby's International. So we initially thought it would just be a slow build. People will come on board. Let's see how this works out. And then we'll go to corporate. So from March of this year to now October, we have 100 Black agents in the community. From that, we have already referred business within the network worth over $1 billion. And out of that movement, corporate saw the transactions happening and said, what's happening? And the CEO asked the VP of brand engagement to reach out to this MJ who started this chaos. And now the organization is saying, how do we formalize this? How can we provide you resources and support? What should we be doing differently? So now they're leaning into the affinity group that we just started in March of this year to say, what could we be doing? What are our blind spots? What is it that we can do? What is it that you need to know that you don't have access to? So when you ask the question, how do we evaluate and what metrics do we set? We were very deliberate within this affinity group to not have it become a social group, but we're treating it like a board. We have mission statement, we have a value statement, we have committees that are responsible for cultural responsibility internally, driving home ownership around the world, engaging with one another more strategically. So if you're in an organization that you see that there's hope and opportunity for it to be different, sometimes you are it. And you have to be willing to show up. But I have the luxury of, I'm an independent contractor. They can get pissed with me and I can just take my license somewhere else. But it is telling when they see it and they come to us and say, what can we do that we're not already doing? So now, like you said, Janae, that I got another job. But this work is so necessary, not just for me, but for the next generation of people of color that look like me, in a brokerage where people are not only making money, but they are creating legacy. And if my commitment is to help my clients commit legacy, and this is a way for that to happen more broadly, then I have to own that that's the season that God has me in, and own that.
And now you know why they call you the closer. Yes, the closer. And you have a whole, I said good trouble, you have a whole plethora of chat here that you can take away for your testimonies. I want to take that story, though, to Stephen and to Janae and ask how, we've talked a lot about what you can do internally. But when you're looking at how you use your voice and your proximity to decision making and your ability to influence external dollars, how do you use it to funnel it to organizations or even small movements like what MJ just described, so that it gets out into the community and it can be something that can grow and can have long lasting wealth building, generational wealth building effects? How do you do that from the corporate perspective to push out to the company or to the community?
Yeah, so I think MJ, that was just I like don't even want to follow MJ right now. That I'm still a little bit reeling in what she was saying. But one of the things that struck me about what she said that kind of leads into this is understanding the business that you work for, what makes them money, what's going to hit their bottom line, how to help push them forward, and kind of aligning that with a lot of the other areas now externally. So one, we've always had we've always been with National Black MBA from a strategic alliance standpoint, big and globally, with not a ton of traction, in the sense nobody was really cultivating it, right? And I'm like, we're Chicagoland organization. Why aren't we part of the Chicago chapter? How do we really get in there and start, partnering and, and getting out into the community and getting our name there? Same thing with our university relations. It's like, not just, it was funny. It was like, we have 2 HBCUs that we go to. I'm like, there's a lot of Black organizations at a lot of the schools that we're a part of. So who's talking to them? How are we getting our name out there? I partnered with one of I support tech, and one of our data engineers, he was an intern with us, and then just he came on full time, and he's from FAMU and Florida A&M, and great. He's like, by your senior year, you already know what you want, Janae. He's like, why don't we start mentoring at freshman, sophomore, junior, just mentoring, right? Just having leaders going, and anybody that wants to sign up, helping them understand the corporate organization, things that they can do, how they prep for interviews, and just being that for a semester. Now we're piloting it at FAMU for the first time, right? And so it's these different, I think, really getting out there into different organizations, being present, seeing how you can actually, I always say, a lot of corporations, I think somebody said this earlier, they say they have a lot, right? It's like checking, once again, let's check the box. We are part of the strategic alliance with National Black MBA, but we attend their conference once a year and then we move on. And I'm like, how are we actually, migrating into there? Really having them understand I think we have really great benefits at Grainger, to be honest. I love how Will said we have a diverse board, we have a diverse leadership team, but nobody knows that, right? And so again, kind of using your voice externally and really ingraining yourself into the different areas within those organizations.
And Stephen, I want to, if you had anything else to add to that, I cannot believe an hour has passed, but before we come to our wrap-up, close-up question.
Thanks. Well, my answer won't be as complete as Janae's. I don't work in HR personally, but just small things that I think that you can do. If you have the opportunities to interview Black employees or, folks for potential roles, be honest with them, be open with them. Be honest about how their interview went, but try to impart knowledge. Again, it's just working with people, I think, the best that you can, and trying to contribute to their success as much as you can. I wish I had something more profound to talk about in that space, but again, I'm not very active with HR specifically, but as far as like directing dollars or things of that nature, it's all about the little things, I guess, trying to be active and trying to participate. So.
All righty. Well, as we wrap up, I would like to go around this amazing, powerful roundtable and ask all of you one tangible piece of advice that you would share with Black professionals, either career or entrepreneurs who are seeking opportunities right now. One thing you'd like to leave them with, and we will start with Tim.
I think the one piece of advice is, I would say, I was just having a conversation yesterday with someone from our talent management team, and they talked about the importance of purpose when it comes to retention. And I think just really seeking alignment in your purpose, in your life purpose, in your team's purpose, and then ultimately the company you work for, the company's purpose. I think to the extent that you can identify what that purpose is and even articulate it and shape that for you and your team, I think that's really going to make a big difference in driving retention for yourself and for your team, and ultimately career success.
Thank you. That purpose is important. Thank you. That's powerful. Janae.
For me, I would just say now is the time. Your voice is being listened to and you're representing more than just yourself. So again, as Melinda said, go ahead and pave that way for others to and don't be afraid to step up and take on bigger roles, things that you didn't think that you had maybe necessarily mapped out for you. But if that opportunity comes to you, don't shy away from it, because people are watching and people are listening now. So take advantage of that.
Step up, take advantage, take the opportunities. Now is the time. Thank you, Janae. Stephen.
I guess just 2 points. We were kind of talking about earlier about your brand. I'm big on hard work. I don't think there's no substitute for hard work. Be laser focused on your brand, be laser focused on your craft. And then like we also said, some of my other panelists have said, just really know your worth. A lot of folks who don't look like you don't have to work as hard, and use that to your advantage. And ask, and go out here and get what you deserve. If a job pays whatever, make sure that you ask for the full amount. Do your research, do your homework, and just be prepared.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Evans.
What they said. But I would add in, all of that is great, but I would add in, always operate with integrity. That will differentiate you. You can work hard. You can do all these things, but always maintain your integrity, no matter what.
Maintain your integrity no matter what. Work hard. And then to Melinda Jordan.
I would leave everyone with, as Willard just said, integrity is key. Own the character attributes that you want to be remembered for. And lastly, choose to create significance. Be intentional about the footprints you want to leave behind, and know that everyone's not going to appreciate it, but it's a choice to want to lead or be a change agent, and it's not always pleasant.
Be intentional about your legacy. I want to thank this panel. Everybody I'm clapping for you, but give them a round of applause in your virtual chat as we welcome Stacy Crook, the Chicago chapter president, and amazing leader in and of herself. And then also a reminder, there is a Diversity Career Expo with some of Chicagoland's top employers. So that is immediately following this. Stacy, did you want to add anything to this amazing experience today? And if not, then I want to thank you all. Please join us and our sponsors and our speakers and whoever else is part of this event today in the expo. There are still opportunities for you to connect, and I would encourage you to do that so that you continue to move forward and to make progress and to take advantage of the opportunities. It has been a pleasure to moderate this panel. I'm Erica M. Roberts, and I am signing out.